And we're live. I'm going to share my screen with audio. Share. And intro. All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Texas Soccer Live, episode 39. The boys, the band is back together. The boys are back in town. We got all three of us. Raul, after being an episode off, is back with Richard and I, as always, here for Texas Soccer Live. So, what's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Richard, feeling a little under the weather, but you're doing all right?
Yes, for sure. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's staying safe. Yeah, everything's going well. I think this last month, I think with like classes starting back up, at least for you, just like being in person, I think just kind of reassimilating ourselves into society, if you will, has been kind of weird. But at least for me, good things. I started working at a new job, so can't complain. Really, really happy and got some new progress going on there. How about you, Raul?
Been pretty good, just taking care of school. Still trying to look for work in the oil field, but Exxon's about to lay off like 1,900 people, so it's not really looking good. So, yeah, just trying to keep myself busy with school, trying to get through it, try to get through this year and see what's in store for next year if anything changes.
So definitely, I feel like that's the theme of this year, guys, is getting through it in 2020. Quick just program note for everybody before we jump in. We've had a little bit of technical stuff off and on. I don't know if it's kind of the overcast weather, but if we glitch up, we do apologize. If we have to, come back, we will. If one of us cuts out, if I cut off, one of us will jump in. So just a heads up for those of you tuning in. Real quick, you saw on the bottom tonight's topics. If you're watching this on playback, we kind of switched up the order a little bit. We're going to jump into a little EuroLeague roundup real fast because they are getting into the swing of things in their seasons over in Europe. We're then going to switch gears and talk a little U.S. soccer. We're going to talk about the Dynamo. We're going to talk about the MLS with their playoffs soon to start. And we'll talk about some NWSL for number two. Number three, second half of the show, we're going to switch over to Liga MX. We got 2 crazy weeks left to go with Liga MX before the, as always, entertaining playoffs begin in just a few weeks, 2 weeks to be exact. And then finally, we're going to do a little roundabout with there's a lot of different Champions League tournaments. This year it's been postponed, but the World Cup of Clubs is taking place. It's not taking place until the date hasn't been determined, but it's going to happen in 2021. That means that there are going to be continental champions. That means Copa Libertadores in South America, CONCACAF champions, UEFA champions, the African Cup, the Asian Cup. All those cups need to be determined, and each federation has come up with a different plan. And we're going to go through kind of some of the big ones, especially Libertadores and Champions League. So once again, guys, make sure you're liking and sharing. We're excited. It's our 39th official full episode. We're quickly going through year 4. It's kind of crazy. I realize each one of these episodes represents a month of Texas Soccer Live, so we've been going strong. All right, guys, let's jump right in. And what I kind of want to do for the Euro Roundup for y'all is, and I'm going to be putting a couple different standings up here. I just want to kind of go through. It's super, super early in the season for a lot of these leagues, but just some of y'all's general impressions. And let's start off with the 2 big leagues. Let's start off with Premier League. Premier League right now is only about 5 matches through, and kind of a weird name that you don't usually see in first place right now. Everton is sitting up there in first place with 13 points. What appear to be the unstoppable Liverpool from last year is in second with also 13 points. Aston Villa, a team that has not been up there in a long time, is in third with fourth Leicester City and a very, very strong Tottenham Hotspurs team. Notice no Man U, no Man City, no Arsenal. None of them are around in the top 5. So I don't know how much of the Premier League you guys have been able to watch, but just for me first, I would just say that I've been very impressed with Tottenham as a team that I like how they've come together, and I don't think the 5th place really indicates. I think they're going to get much. I think this is a team you're going to see getting stronger throughout the year. So, for me personally, I think Tottenham is going to be the team that you're going to see rise. Not taking anything away from how great Liverpool still is and will be, but I like what Tottenham is finally doing over there in terms of putting all the pieces together. Either one of y'all, any impressions or any thoughts on what we're seeing? Only 6 games into the Premier League.
I mean, the first thing.
Richard, if you want to go.
Yeah, the first thing that.
Yeah, Richard, you go ahead first.
The first thing that comes to mind is just the fact that, like, at least nobody has a perfect streak. Everybody at least has tied or lost a game at this point, and it's already week 5. So I think, like you said, the 5th place for Tottenham isn't an indicator of how well or how bad they're doing. I think it also speaks volumes just to, I guess, the so-called, I would say, the best league in the world it's rightfully named because it's so competitive. I think one team in particular that we didn't mention was the Leeds United, and I think for me that's the team that I keep hearing just because of all the news coverage that it got when it got promoted, and Marcelo Bielsa being the coach of the team, and I think them being 6th place. I mean, I think that speaks more volumes than I guess like your usual like at least top teams up there. But like you said, the big surprises are Everton and Aston Villa, and hopefully, I mean, let's see how long they can keep this up. Like, let's see if by the end of this year they're still up there.
Yeah, Raul, any thoughts?
I haven't really kept up with it, but there are a few games that I have watched and that stick out to me. But the one team that actually it's interesting to see is Tottenham, and I think it's because they got back Gareth Bale, and I think getting rid of him kind of it didn't hurt them because I mean they were still up there, but I think that was one of the pieces that they were missing. And honestly, it's better to see him back with the Spurs because I mean we all see he had a decent impact with Madrid, but it wasn't what everybody expected. Everybody expected him to do basically on the level of what Ronaldo did, but I mean, when you're playing next to him, you can't really outshine him when he's there with you. So,
well, 2 things, you guys, and we're only, like I said, they've actually played 6 matches. My apologies on that, but with Tottenham, 2 stat leaders already. Son from Tottenham. I mean, talk about Son Heung-min is 8 goals in 6 games for Son, and Harry Kane with 8 assists already in 6 games, dominating. You mentioned Richard. You mentioned Leeds United. Patrick Bamford for them with 6 goals on the season already. But Mo Salah with 6 goals for Liverpool, Jamie Vardy, with 6 for Leicester City, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin for Everton with 7. So there's goals. They're scoring already. And Aston Villa has 2 guys with John McGinn and Jack Grealish who are combined have 7 assists. So they're racking up the stats fast. It's very impressive. So another interesting storyline is over in La Liga. And because, once again, teams you're not used to seeing up in the standings, once again, I get it early on. Most teams have played between 6 and 7 matches. There are a couple that have only played 5 with a kind of a staggered start. Your first place is Real Sociedad with 14 points. A usual name, Real Madrid, is up there with 13 points. Granada is in third with 13 points. Villarreal is up there with 12 points in fourth. And Atletico Madrid rounds out the top 5 with 11 points. Also, some interesting notes for you. Barcelona sits down there in 12th with 7 points, and Sevilla right behind them in 13th with 7 points. So 2 usual teams in Barcelona and Sevilla, with Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid being up there, and 2 usual teams not up there. In particular, I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts. Is it panic time in Barcelona, or is this still a young season that they're going to fix and figure out? Raul, if you want to go first on this one.
I don't think it's necessarily panic time. I think, obviously, with the news with Messi and stuff, it kind of shook things up. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They recently beat Juventus. I believe it was 3-0. Mm-hmm. But I think this season might be the one where they put more focus on the Champions League than the season. Yeah. I mean, they still might find themselves up there, but I think what Barca fans really want is a Champions League trophy. Because, I mean, the La Liga trophy, I mean, I don't want to say it's easy to get, but I mean, the Real Madrid and Barcelona are the teams that are always up there. They're always fighting each other to get it. So they could easily turn it on and like climb up like to first or second easily. But I think right now they're more worried about Champions League. Obviously, I mean, there's going to be some breaks in between, but I don't know, the whole Messi drama, and I don't know, it's weird. I think it's going to come down to they're going to have to not rebuild, but they're going to have to get rid of a few pieces to get to the Barcelona that we've known for a while.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, similarly, like I think we can go back to this and think that it's too late for Barcelona to start planning ahead. Hey, Juan. Just because I think the team, whether we like it or not, or whether Barcelona will admit it or not, they've built the team around Messi. After 5 years, you've had great soccer players. You've had Neymar, you've had Coutinho, you've had Luis Suarez come in, and now you have Griezmann. You know, if like these are like relatively top players who have come to Barcelona and have left. The only one who's still there is Griezmann, right? And I think for Barcelona, it's kind of what happened with the New England Patriots. They kind of ended up going for the veteran and opting for someone younger. You know, and I mean, I think we're seeing the consequences of that. I think I won't say that they're not degrading the La Liga by just like not caring at all, because I think at the end of the day, they still want to be the champs, and the best league, or at least the best era of Barcelona, was when they won all of the championships. So I think they're just off to a bad start. I think it kind of left them with a bad taste of mouth, if you will. I guess in Spanish is like mal sabor de boca. That Messi wants to leave, yet the team is still being prioritized around Messi. So, I mean, I think you can feel it. They probably can feel it in the locker room. One team that I am surprised to see up there is Granada. Just to kind of switch things, just because I realized that they were relegated back in 2017, and they made a comeback the following year. So I think for them, hopefully, you know, this is not just like these first couple of weeks. It's only been 6 games for them. Sorry. And so we'll see. But that's the one team that I want to keep an eye on for this tournament, to see if they're going to be able to make it to some top level competition.
Be interested to see if some of these teams that have always been stuck, in the mid to bottom range can actually break through and be up there. And I will say this: Barcelona and Sevilla in their defense have only played 5 games. The other teams have played 1 or 2 more games than them, so there's not a little unfair to judge them on that. Suarez, meanwhile, has taken great to his new home in Atletico Madrid with 4 goals already on the season, and for the first time in a while, you don't see a name like Suarez or Messi for Barcelona. It's Ansu Fati is the one who's scoring 4 goals already for Barcelona. So interesting mix of new guys into new roles. It's interesting. I mean, Messi has to get used to not having one of his right-hand men, in Suarez, who's been there for a while for him, not with him. So, yeah, I think they'll adapt, and we'll have to see. It's still we know how long of a grind these seasons are, and I think there's going to be a lot of shifting. Speaking of shifting, let's go over real quick to 2 other leagues in Europe and just real quick look at them because there's not as much drama here, but the common theme continues with Serie A. Some new teams, well, not new teams, but not the usual suspects. We're always used to seeing that Juventus team up in first place, but out of the gate, it is AC Milan that's come out swinging with 13 points in five matches played. Napoli, who we know has been up there, is in second with 11. Sassuolo is up there and not usually up there at all, but they're up there with 11. Inter Milan is hanging around in fourth place with 10 points. And then you have Juventus in fifth with Atalanta and a bunch of other teams with 9 and 8 points. My question for you guys is, because we talk about this, I feel like, every year we've had this show and we've talked about Serie A, it's like, is there going to be someone, and is this the year? I mean, is someone seriously? I mean, we've seen some crazy title races in Serie A right down to the wire, but I feel like all of us every time are like, we know it's going to be Juventus, at least for the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really impressed with what AC Milan is putting together. And I wonder if they can go back to the glory days and we're going to see some AC Milan or even Inter Milan start dominating a little bit. But I'm just curious to get y'all's impression initially. Like I said, only 5 matches in. But do you think we got some serious contenders to finally, maybe besides Juventus?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think like if you're taking it back to the glory days, I think those were with Zlatan and Ronaldinho and Kaká, right? Back in like 08, 09, with AC Milan. And I think you're right. I mean, Zlatan is back. I mean, as much as we can say, how much of a, I guess, like stock up person he could be, or just like his character, but that's just who he is. And I think like he demonstrates that on the field, and the team has been very supportive of him. You have Higuain, I think he's back there too. Like this team really rebuilt itself, and I would say is learning from their mistakes, or at least they're showing it in these first 5 matches. Let's hope they can keep it that way. And I mean, like you mentioned, the one big surprise there is Sassuolo. I think they haven't been a team who hasn't been regular. They just have been a team who's been quiet, right? Mid to low table. And Napoli, I guess they love second place because they're still there. So.
Well, another one that we don't see up there that I was in the past is Lazio has not come out to a quick start, and they're usually up there. I mean, that's the thing. I'm glad you hit the nail on the head. I'm glad you mentioned Zlatan already. 6 goals in 5 matches. I mean, just when you think this guy, we thought he's coming to LA Galaxy for like a victory lap. I'm getting my money. I'm done for the season, my career. This guy gets back to AC Milan, and he's just thriving in a. We know what I think. What really did it for Zlatan compared to the MLS, Serie A is a goal scoring league. It is an offensive league, right? We see huge numbers, and that's Zlatan, right? He wants the ball, he wants to score, so he's back in an environment that I think is more conducive for his style and for his age than the MLS is. So, Raul, any thoughts?
I feel like after Zlatan came to the MLS, he kind of treated it like it was his show. He came to collect money. He came to show off and give the people what they couldn't see every day or every weekend. So I feel like he came over here. I mean, you've seen he dominated, but eventually he had to go back where he was loved the most. I mean, they loved him there the most. I feel like I don't want to say his career was the best there, but that's where we started seeing the arrogance Lawton that everybody knows. Like he was being an ass. but that's what everybody loves. Everybody loves that side of him because, I mean, you really don't see guys doing that. And he has, I mean, what he does, he's able to back it up. But everybody loves seeing him play.
Yeah.
So, like, especially there. But I mean, it should be interesting. I feel like this is going to be the season where it's not going to be your typical teams that are up there. Some changes are coming, and uh, I really hope somebody else wins it because I'm tired of seeing the same thing every season.
I think you kind of hit on something that made me think of. You talked about this is the year that we're going to see something different. I, I think the true effects of this bizarre 2020 and everything that we had, the shortened seasons, I think we're going to see the full effects of that as we get into the 2021 seasons. You know what I'm saying? Because it's having ripple effects, right? You didn't have full seasons together, and it's just been jumbled up, and how you're playing games and the environments are different. Some teams are clearly adapting and excelling, and some teams are becoming dinosaurs, and they're gonna be extinct if they don't get their act together. I mean, I know that sounds a little extreme, but I just think there's shifting literally going on underneath our feet. We'll talk about the MLS for a second. Speaking of Zlatan, looks like he left the LA Galaxy at the right time because they're an absolute trash, firing a manager today and in dead last place. So he looks like he got out of LA, got out of town just in time. So talk about shifting things real fast. I don't want to spend too much time just on Bundesliga. Usual suspects on this one. This is the one league that we have our usual suspects up there. Leipzig up in first place with Bayern in second, Dortmund in third, Leverkusen and Stuttgart in fourth and fifth. My favorite, Mönchengladbach in sixth place with your usual middle ground pack. Not a lot of surprise here, but I don't know what y'all's thoughts are. I am impressed that Bayern came out with no Champions League hangover. You know what I'm saying? We see a lot of teams after the Champions League kind of come out, tired, and going straight into a season. It just shows you how loaded that team is, and they come out just still in form. I do think it's going to catch up to them at some point because they're an older team, but so far so good if you're a Bayern Munich fan.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a team that's stacked like that with that kind of talent, you're able to mess around with the lineup. So some guys are going to get rest, some guys are going to be able to go in and play. Eventually, I mean, it would be interesting to see them go back to back. That would be very interesting. But I mean, when you have that type of talent, your lineup is flexible. You're able to throw players in and out whenever you want. So I think this is just them being them. I mean, it's a team that we always see.
They're also scoring like crazy. Lewandowski is out of his mind right now. They've played 5 matches and he's scored 10 goals. He's averaging 2 goals a game. And may I mention that Gnabry and Mueller both have 3 goals apiece after only 5 games. So those 3 guys are accounting for 16 goals over 5 games. I mean, yeah, that's a little hard to stop. Richard, I mean, do you think these guys can repeat? We haven't seen a repeat in a while. I don't remember the last time we've seen a repeat in Champions, but when we get to that towards the end of the show, they are strong right now. They came out of Champions League, the first 2 matches strong. They look good in their domestic league. Do you think these guys have the makeup to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think if this is like I was mentioning earlier with Barcelona, Bayern Munich could be that team that does it. I mean, they've shown consistency, and we talked about it last show too. They're the one team who has stayed consistent throughout the pandemic, or even with the pandemic. So I think if I were to put my bet on a team, it would be Bayern Munich.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and guys, I'm not going to mention Ligue 1 because we all know that PSG's in first place. I feel like that's a waste of time now, so we're not going to talk about them anymore. I'll talk about the. I'm sorry if you're a French league fan. I'll talk about them once somebody actually other than PSG is doing something. Okay, shifting gears. Couple interesting things here to talk about, and you'll see at the bottom there. I'm putting up the last couple of results of the Dynamo. Same old Dynamo. 4 games, 2 losses, a couple ties. Yay, yeah. Sitting in 10th place, only 4 wins on the season. So, we knew this has turned out pretty miserable. But one thing, and let me see if I can have it up real fast. What was leaked, or it was in a video, and they're not acknowledging it, but we all know this is what it is, was we talked about the rebrand, and if I can share my screen. What was leaked was this image of James Harden holding a soccer ball with the alleged new crest of our Houston Dynamo. Excuse me, our Houston Dynamo FC. Because that's the thing that's going to change us. So it was interesting, seeing things pan out. But I got to get y'all's reaction, instant reaction, Raul. Yes or no on? Let's start with the name. FC. I think I know your answer to this, but what are your thoughts on keeping the Dynamo but adding the FC?
I don't know. It's crap. It's like they're trying to change it to like some type of Euro type of design. I don't know. It's stupid. I don't like the letters. The letters look funny. It looks like they're trying to use like an old English font. And I'm just now realizing there's a lightning bolt at the bottom. I don't know what that's supposed to stand for, or I don't know. I don't know what that lightning bolt is. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. It's stupid. I mean, if that's gonna be the patch, well, I mean that's the new logo. But if that little like octagon thing, whatever it is, I don't know. It just looks dumb.
Well, and I mentioned this before. The style, like the whatever this lettering style is you want to call it. Go look at the new Austin FC that Austin FC is going to start playing. It looks very similar to Austin FC style, just in orange. And I'm just like, what do we do? I feel like you. I feel like they took the other team style. They added FC because, oh, look, Seattle Sounders is FC. Atlanta, everyone has this, if we don't add United or FC, then we're not, or SC, then we're not going to do anything. And then on top of that, how lazy is it with, oh, let's just put an H and a D together. It's kind of like an LA Dodgers looking thing. It's pretty ugly. I mean, I'm sorry. I'll let you go first. Let me clear the floor real fast. Let's bring in the marketing man himself, Richard. Honest, don't hold back. I know you may have some friends that were involved in it. But no. Honestly, what's your thought on this logo and this rebrand?
No, if any of my designers friends are out there watching, I can be brutally honest, and at the end of the day, it's all about getting feedback. And like you said, like I'm hoping this isn't it. Personally, I guess like not personally, professionally speaking, it's trash. I think like right out the bat, it's not good. It's not very imaginative. Like I've met some of the people who work there in the creative side, and I think this is not going hand in hand with what I've seen from the creative team on the Dynamo side. I
what
think
it looks like? Now that I'm looking at it, it reminds me of the San Francisco Giants logo.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think the lettering style doesn't go with what I guess the Dynamo or what Houston kind of represents. Like we're not old style. We're all about the future. We're all about being progressive. Like those are the things that come up when you think about Houston, and the fact that they were so lazy. Like if this is the logo, that this is, I guess, a little bit more on the lazy side in terms of uncreative design. I think when you look at
black the dominant color, you know what I'm saying? Like orange is now like the secondary color,
right?
Like it makes no sense.
I mean, like I think like they've been trying to push that black color, which is I think personally is good. I don't see it as it being the primary color because if not, the ball would have been kind of like, or I don't know. I think because I guess they wanted to highlight that orange in that image. I just think when I was thinking about rebrand, I was thinking like something different. Like I think I was thinking more like I just mentioned, like something more progressive, like something about like with light, with the thunder. I mean the thunderbolt right there. Like you could have done so much stuff with that idea right there in terms of feeling the energy, feeling the crowd. And I guess that, at least for me, that hand lettering style if it's gonna be the logo, I think it's trash. But if it's not the logo, I mean, it could be used for something in the marketing. But like you said, like just them being crossed, that thing, you automatically think about baseball. You don't think about soccer in that regard.
No, and the whole, I mean, seriously, do we got to add the FC? I mean, just stop it. Like they're trying to be like everybody, and it's like no, like it is not needed, it just seems silly to me that they're insisting on that. So
I mean, I
I
don't
don't
mind.
know.
I don't mind. Like I don't mind. Like if for some reason, everybody has to have it. Like I guess, like that's not what I'm really worried about. I'm more worried the fact that like if this is where the creative team stood by for a logo, like I think for it like having quite like they've been planning this for a while now. Like I think they could have come up with something better.
Well, and I really hope if this has been okay, the creative marketing team, that's their job, right, to focus on this stuff. That's their department. But if this is what ownership and management has been focused on, okay, get a lot. They're idiots because they're acting as if this is going to like change the team. If I hear the GM, if I hear ownership come out and be like, "It's a brand new Houston Dynamo. Look at all this and new." The dang new uniforms ain't going to change the play on the field. It ain't going to change your youth and academy system. So like, do a rebrand, refresh, whatever. But like, don't sell it to us as if this is going to transform the Dynamo. Okay, cool. New thing, sell some tickets, sell some new jerseys. But like, what makes me annoyed with them and their media department, dealing with the media is like this. They're let's throw this out there and see if they like that. It's like, stop throwing these little artificial bones out for us to chew on and give us some real freaking substance. Give us the big signing. Give us the big, announcement about the development of your youth system. It's just so exhausting being a fan of the Dynamo and following this team because it just seems like it's lost its focus for a long time about like, guys, do we need to talk about primary colors right now, or should we be worried about the fact that we've won only 4 games? Like I don't know.
I think I'm gonna go green next year, just like that. I've seen like the Austin FC social media, like they've been so interactive with like who could be like a free agent that could come to Austin FC, and they're like putting like big names out there. Like I think that's kind of what the interaction you want to have across like creative platforms with the fans. Like it's not about the logo. The logo is something that you do behind the scenes to kind of embrace the culture that you've created with the soccer team. Yeah. And I think that like you said it perfectly. That just shows the disconnect that exists between probably management, probably the marketing team, when they think about the culture of soccer here in Houston.
Well, they don't listen to the fans. They hosted those things with the groups that formed with the fan groups and some of after the uproar of last season, and they hosted these fancy meetings and took a lot of pictures. But they're not really listening, because if they were really listening, it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, good, we've checked the box. We listen to the fans. Okay, let's move on. So I don't know. I want to be optimistic because I do think Tab Ramos, give him another year or two, he's going to put the right system in place, but I'm not confident that the people behind him are going to give him the tools and give him the right resources, money being the big resource, to get the job done. I don't know. It's just becoming so exhausting to get behind this team, and it shouldn't feel like that, as a fan.
Right.
Shouldn't. Okay. I do want to share my screen again because I want to shift gears. By the way, the Dynamo do have 2 more games. They're going up to Dallas on Saturday on Halloween, and then you'll see them again on the 8th. They'll close out the season here in Houston against Colorado. Both Colorado and Dallas, as you'll see in a second, are punching their tickets to the playoffs. Well, tentatively punching their tickets to the playoffs while we're going to be sitting around. So let me share again because I want to share the standings because this is a little bit complicated for average or even a experienced soccer fan to actually understand here. And I know it's probably small, but let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. The reason I wanted to share it was because as you look at things, what they're doing here is not every team played the 23 games, right? We had COVID cases. People jumped out of the tournament. Colorado missed an entire month. So here's what they're doing for the playoffs. The top eight are going to get in from each conference and play like a round, a 16 game, round of 16 elimination type stuff. The problem is two things. Number one, Eastern Conference has 2 more teams. They have 14. The West only has 12. So how do you solve that? Well, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a brief little playoff for those last 2 spots. So the cutoff line actually goes down to 10th in the East, because 7, 8, 9, and 10 are going to play each other for like kind of a wild card to play in to determine spots 7 and 8. Meanwhile, in the West, you'll just get the top 8, right? And that seems simple, right? Well, here's the other problem, which is confusing people. You notice how, for example, Seattle right here is number 1, but they have 35 points. Well, why is Sporting Kansas City in second with 36? What the MLS is doing, and I hate they're doing this because it's going to confuse fans, is because people have played various number of games, and not all of them are going to get to 23. Notice Colorado here with only 15. They are using what they're calling points per game. They're doing an average points per game. So based on, did you get these points based off of ties and wins? So if you look at Seattle's ties and wins and how they got their points, it's an average of 1.84 versus Kansas City's 1.8 points per game, and that's what's putting them in first place. I can go on a little bit more, but anyways, initial reactions. What are y'all's thoughts on this? Because it is creating quite a little bit of a hubbub, if you will, in who's in which position. Here's another one for you. Nashville, 6th place, 28 points, 1.4. New York Red Bulls, New England Revolution, we have 1 more point, but nope, sorry. You have a 1.38 average, and so you're going to be 7th and 8th. I mean, okay, I guess anything you want to comment on that, guys. I'm just wondering, what are y'all thoughts as fans? What are y'all thoughts if you're one of these teams? Like, is this going to be a mess, or like what are we doing here? Like, what's the MLS doing?
I mean, I'm just laughing because I think this is how they kind of like set their grave, if you will, when they decided to count the goals or the points from the little tournament that happened in June and July. And then here you have, like, again, I think if there was another reason for the world to criticize the MLS, like, we just gave them another reason why. Like, we're treating this like if it's some other sport than what it is. Like, you don't have a lot of goals or a lot of points to compare it when you have basketball, or when you have baseball, you have more intercessions or more periods to play. Like, you just have the 90 minutes, and in those 90 minutes, you might score 1 goal, you might score 0, you might score 3, you might score 5. You never know. So those points should mean a lot to the team who earns them. And right now, what you just done, you just eliminated that. I don't know. What do you think, Raul?
I don't know. I think it's just stupid. I mean, why can't you just keep it the way that everybody keeps it? If you win, you get 3 points. If you lose, you don't get anything. If you tie, you get 1 point. I don't know. It's stupid. I don't think the MLS knows what they're doing. I think this pandemic kind of messed them up. They shouldn't have had that bubble tournament, because now they honestly don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's a crap show. I mean, obviously, like, the points is what matters the most at the end of the day. The goals, per game and all that shit, it doesn't matter, because what you're doing is you're messing up your home field advantage. You're giving it to somebody else. They have more points than you. They got the win. All that other stuff doesn't matter. If I have more points than you, I want to have my home field.
Yeah. I mean, to play devil's advocate, I mean, what they're trying to argue is saying that they got these points, but for example, Seattle got those 35 points, but in only 19 games, versus Sporting KC. Yeah, they got more points, 1 more point at 36, but it took them 20 games to get that 1 extra point. You see what I'm saying? That's why they think that this points per game evens that out. That maybe works for this, for when you're off by a game like this with Seattle and Kansas City. But what I'm wondering is, I mean, think about the people who are going to be pissed here. Colorado with only 19 points over 15 games. I get it. But, the rest of these teams saying, hey, look, we played less games. We worked our butt off. Vancouver, Real. I mean, heck, even Houston with 21 points. The difference is, like I said, they're arguing that Colorado is a better team because they earned 19 points over 15 games versus the Dynamo earned 21 points, but it took them an entire 21 games to earn it. So I see the logic, but what the MLS doesn't get, and you guys are hitting on it, like, you know, I think what Rich was saying about, and Raul, you too, about this, them not getting it, not knowing what they're doing. This is a nightmare for fans. You're a league that you're trying to compete with all the other sports, major leagues in America. Crap like this is why your typical American is not getting into soccer. They don't like crap like this. People don't like their sports complicated. They want to know very clear, hey, you have more points, you win. You have less points, you lose. And when you do screwy stuff like this, or at least what it appears to be screwy, I mean, it makes perfect sense. But your average, you know, fan on the street is not going to stop and listen to an argument, you know, as to why this is. All they see is, hey, look, so-and-so has more points, they're getting screwed. You know, and I just don't get why it goes back to the Dynamo too. We talked about the Dynamo, but also now the MLS. They have lost connection with the American soccer fan. They're trying to create something that doesn't exist. And it's like, guys, the model's been set for you. Look at Liga MX. Look at any league in Europe. Look at any league in South America. They know what the hell they're doing. And follow them. Why do we have to be so different because we're Americans? It just makes me so annoyed because that's what this is. It's this bizarre. It's turning into a more bizarre brand of soccer. It really is.
Yeah.
That's why the Americans don't really get behind soccer that everybody else gets behind, because everybody else is simple. Yeah, they try, like, obviously other teams expand and they have relegation and stuff like that, but they don't change the way it has worked for a long time. It's you win, you lose, you lose. You have playoff formats that changes and it goes. It's just to see how it works, but it's still the same point system. Yep. And the American people, when they watch sports, it's all right, same rules. A touchdown, 6 points, extra point is 1 point, 2 point plays. Baseball, you go past ninth innings if you have, like 9 innings if you have to, if you're tied. That stuff stays the same. But no, the MLS wants to, well, we'll do this. And if it doesn't work, then we'll go ahead and do this. Keep it simple. That's what people like, simplistic things. Stop trying to play with. You want people to show up like what they do for baseball games. They have their sheets and they want them to fill out every stat. It's like, no, nobody's going to do that. You're going to go sit down. You're going to watch the game. If you win, you got 3 points. You lose, you didn't get 3 points, and that's it. I mean,
right.
If it involves an equation, a math equation, it doesn't belong in sports. I'm sorry. Right. Like if I have to sit there as a fan and go, oh, look, we won 2-1. Oh, wait a minute. Let me do my calculations here. Oh, crap. We're only in 8th place, not 7th. It's stupid. Sorry, Richard, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. I mean, I'm curious to hear, because the only person that I always hear rightfully criticizing the U.S. soccer is, Tidwell and Heath Pierce, like two of the former like U.S. soccer players who like criticize to the ground the U.S. Soccer Foundation and the MLS together. Just because, like you were saying, Raul and Sean, it's like, it's outrageous. Like, you need to do math. Like, this is, you're killing the sport by trying to make it the most fascinating thing. You're celebrating your 20th year anniversary or your 25-year anniversary, and you're coming up with stuff like this. Like, I think, like, again, like I said, like, if we're just giving the rest of the world another reason to mock the U.S. MLS, the U.S. soccer. And that's like, unfortunate, because like we're gonna touch on later, but I'll let you finish, Sean.
I'm just saying, like, it's like if the Houston Texans were like, well, guys, we're 1-5, but technically because of the points scored in our games and our points per game, we're not in last place in the AFC South. We're actually second. No, you idiots, you suck. You're 1-5. You're losers. Get out of town. It's like, stop trying to make bad. If stuff sucks and it's bad, let it suck and be bad. If things are good, like, leave it alone. So anyways, we could go on with that. Any final thoughts? I'm not going to touch on the playoffs with MLS yet, because there's still a couple games going on. The plan is to start the playoffs by mid-November, slightly after when Liga MX starts or around the same time, and they're trying to do it in a month. So basically the MLS final would be in early December, is what they're saying. We'll see if they can actually get it all together and get it going. So before we shift gears for our second half to Liga MX and our tournaments, Richard, I did want to give you a second. I do know that you had a couple updates for us on the NWSL front.
Yes, for sure. And like I was saying, somebody who is trying to change that narrative of what U.S. soccer looks like is the NWSL. I think they, like, I mean, I wish they would have more teams. I wish they could be more televised. And with all their hard work, they're earning all of this. So just to kick things off, there are 3 points I wanted to touch on tonight and hear y'all thoughts on it too. And if you have any comments below, leave those in the chat too. There are 2 expansion teams coming to the NWSL, and they're both owned by their male counterparts, just like the Houston Dash is owned by the Houston Dynamo owners. The first one that's going to be coming in for next year is going to be the Racing Louisville City FC. So again, with the FC, right? And so, I mean, we don't have the Louisville men's. They're in the USL second tier division for the men's side. But for LA, we're going to have the City Angels FC coming in for 2022. So just your thoughts on that real quick.
I
if you've heard any news.
I just think that it's smart for the NWSL, if they want to grow, you got to aggressively expand, but also you got to rely on established resources and markets. So I think it's smart that obviously if there's an MLS team in a town, there's some sort of soccer market already there. That's the groundwork's been laid. And so, for example, I do think the Dash, even though the Dynamo are not, the Dash have outplayed the Dynamo in terms of results on the field, I think they've benefited greatly from that partnership and being under the same umbrella and brand. And I think that the LA team and Louisville as well. So I think that that's the method. If you're, if the NWSL wants to expand, they need to keep talking with the MLS and those team owners and convince them that it's a good thing to add a women's team to the market that you're in. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think, well, I feel like they're on the right path. I mean, they're doing the right thing. Obviously, both MLS and NWSL, they're trying to expand and make them bigger. But the good thing about NWSL is they're not so complicated. They know how soccer is played. They're basically trying to do what Liga MX is doing. They're trying to bring in more teams. They're trying to expand, which is smart. I mean, I can actually see, I mean, if it wasn't for the MLS, I could actually see NWSL adapting to Liga MX because it's easier like that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's a smart move. You're giving, obviously, I feel like they should probably put them in, like, better places, not in, like, some of these little crap towns. But, I mean, put them in better places where they can get a bigger following. Because if you put it in a small town, it's like, well, a town of like 500 people. I mean, what's the point of that? You're giving a lot of people an opportunity also because, I mean, a lot of these women's soccer, it's viewed as not so important. And there's a lot of women out there that look to play for like their national team and stuff like that. Because I know a girl, she's from Dallas, and the Tigres Femenil, they had a tryout. She went and she made the team, and now she lives out there. And whenever they're not playing, she comes back to Dallas. So, I mean, it's good because, I mean, you're giving a lot of these girls an opportunity to go and play, especially after college. A lot of them go for like college sports, and then after that, it's like, oh well, I mean, the men get an opportunity. Can I get an opportunity? Now they're actually giving them that, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's good that you bring out that point. And for anybody who's interested, maybe we can do that as a separate episode, but just talking about the college transition for the women into the NWSL and what that looks like. But the reasoning for Louisville being the first team added, one is because they already have the stadium built for them. So this is a stadium that that's how they were able to kind of like secure that position. They already have the stadium that's going to be seating like 15,000 people or more in Louisville. And I think this so the next thing that comes up is two things. Now the plan is we're going to have 10 teams next year. And after City Angels FC comes aboard, there's going to be 11. So like it's still going to be off, but at least it's going to be to where you can divide these into like 3 groups. Maybe like you said, like how the Liga MX used to be before, where you had like the different groups and then they played off. But I think something that I was learning more about when looking up stuff was that there's going to be an expansion draft. So the way this is going to work, and not to overcomplicate things, because they're really not complicated. The only way it works, and they've already taken advantage of, is they're going to be eligible to take 2 players from each team in the NWSL. I think to rack up to like 18 or 20 players, and then they also have a spot to actually get an allocated U.S. player, which is basically a U.S. woman who is in the national team. So they can use one of those or two trade-offs. And they've already taken advantage by taking 2 players from the Chicago Red Stars, which is basically if we're talking about territory, they're the only other team in the Midwest. So now we're going to have 2 teams in the Midwest. So that expansion is going to happen November 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if any of you are interested in seeing that, feel free to check it out. I think in terms of checking things out, this last fall series was played on CBS All Access and Twitch. So it was available to stream for free on Twitch. And if you had like CBS from your cable provider, you were able to see all the games that happened in this fall series. Something that I didn't know was that this tournament already ended, of course, but there was an added benefit of it going to charity. So they didn't overcomplicate things. They weren't like, oh, we're going to have teams duke it out and have a champion. No, they were like, we already did that over the summer. Right now, it's all about charity. And so the top 3 teams won $20K, $15K, and $10K allocated to their charities of their choice. And the Houston Dash, our local team, won second place. So they actually earned $15,000 to donate to the NAACP. So just thoughts about that, on their choice of going for a charity approach than more.
I just like their overall style as a league and how they're gaining fans the right way by doing the right things, by how they're playing on the field. They're not. I always criticize. You talk about women's sports in general. Like I think they're learning from the WNBA's mistakes. The WNBA now is kind of demanding that it needs to be the same thing, as we need to get paid the same as the men and this and that. But the thing they don't realize is that it's a business, right? You can only get paid unless you're generating revenue, and you generate revenue by getting fans in the seats, by selling merchandise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What I love about the NWSL is I don't hear them. They get that. And so what they're doing is they're grinding it out. That's the only way you get it really anything that's worth it in life, is you got to grind it out. And that's what they're doing. They're gaining fans slowly. They're doing stuff that's making them more public and out there in the community. They're gaining fans. They're improving the quality. They're getting more national players involved. They're expanding teams. It's going to be a longer process, but I think it's better for their longevity and them actually gaining prominence, instead of saying, well, look, just because we play soccer, we should get the same thing. No, like they're being realistic. They're like, look, we get it. We got to earn fans. We got to get butts in the seats. We got to give results. And once we do that, now we have the argument to say, okay, we need to get, the same, that's just my opinion, in the same sort of that. It comes down to a business, and unless you're generating the money and you have to get the fans to do that. And I think by doing stuff like that, it goes a long way with earning respect, and earning respect hopefully turns into earning fans.
Yes.
Speaking of the Dash, real quick, I wonder if they're going to change their logo also.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if is there anything on that, Richard, in terms of them changing?
No, not at all. But I think just
because that would suck if they get to keep the original crest and then the men's have to change. That's going to suck. I mean, I would assume they're probably going to change, but I don't know. Yeah, I just thought about that right now. If the Dynamo, the men's, is changing, the colors, the women have like the old school colors, like the baby blue and orange. which I wish they would bring that back for the guys, but that's never going to happen. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to be under the same crest, or I don't know. That's something to look at whenever, if they decide to change it or not.
No, you bring up a good point, and I mean, I think just in terms of like redesigning, like I think like another team who's going to be, I guess, pushing for a women's team is going to be Austin FC. There's nothing confirmed, but at least like they're being pretty vocal that they want to have a women's team there too. So we're gonna have a new competitor. Like, you know, we have FC Dallas Dynamo. Now we're gonna have the Austin FC and Dash. You know, so hopefully coming soon, right? I think these are the only two confirmed teams for the NWSL in the next 2 years. But who knows? I think the TV ratings were so good, they increased over 500% in this last year, and they acquired it from ESPN, some lower level ESPN network. And so CBS, I'm guessing they're really happy with the amount of interaction that they've had over on the platform, because like you said, if they targeted, they I guess made the right play by being, and they're known as now as the first league in the world to have sports in the, you know, back at, like during COVID. So, and they did it successfully in my opinion. So
definitely. Well, Richard, I appreciate the update, and we'll keep track of things as we go forward. Shifting gears, I know we're going a little bit long, but now I want to get to something that is big for everyone right now, and that is the next 2 weeks of soccer in Mexico. So shifting gears to Liga MX. Oh boy, do we have a fight on our hands as usual. I want to remind everyone before we start talking that this is going to, remember, this is the first time. It's not your usual just top 8 teams. We're talking about 12 now, so that adds a whole new dynamic. And as you see, Richard and Raul supported their teams. Let's talk about the game of the week. So first of all, let's set the stage and look at our standings. We have two games remaining for everyone. What I'd like to do, guys, is there's not really a neat way to do this, but I said let's go through top to bottom. Okay, one down to 18, and I want to talk about each team. We're going to talk about who their last 2 opponents are and how you guys think each team is going to finish the season. Some predictions on place and where we think. I think it'll be pretty simple, a little rapid fire. We're going to stop on a couple of them because I know there's some key ones we want to talk about. Let's start at the top because it's an easy one to analyze because they're not going anywhere. Leon has separated themselves with 36 points. They have 36 points. They are a deadlock for first place. They could lose both games. Other teams can win. Doesn't matter. Leon is going to be your number 1 seed going into the playoffs. They have Santos this week, and they'll finish out the season with Toluca. So, first of all, Leon, what are y'all's thoughts? Do we have another potential first place curse here? What do we think about Leon and how they're going to considering these games don't really matter to them in terms of it's not going to change their standings? How do you think we're going to see Leon approach these last 2 games and gear up for a playoff run?
I think they're just going to phone it in. I mean, you really don't have anything to play for. Nobody can come back and beat you. Well, yeah, no, like nobody can really come back and take it away from you. No. I've already seen it happen against them when they played us in the final. They were first place. They made it all the way to the final and they lost against us. So that first place curse, everybody thinks it's easy to beat, but it's not. That's probably one of the things that sticks around the most is that first place curse. There's only a few teams that have ever done it, but yeah, I don't think they're gonna be able to do it. Especially if they're up top, they're not gonna have to play for, I believe, maybe like a full week. They're not gonna play or something like that. So should be that break is gonna mess them up, but I think they're gonna phone it in. I don't see them having to go out there and risk some sort of injury or anything.
Yeah.
No, you hit it right on, Raul. I think for them, they could do 2 things. They could make a statement these next two weeks and show us, that they're not taking anything lightly, or they could play, I guess I would call it the smarter approach, which is try out somebody who you haven't tried out in the bench or in the reservation side, and have them play. So you know really the extent of your team and what they would look like. Because Santos and Toluca are also relatively in, like they're gonna have to play for their spot.
They're both
But
fighting, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but there's they have potential of like ruining the party at some point. So it's not to take them lightly. You might see one of these two up in the playoffs too. So I think those are their two options, and I could see Leon playing either one.
Right.
Mhm.
Moving right along, number 2, and this one's where it gets real interesting. Cruz Azul, who we've liked to roast all year because we don't think they're for real, but they are sitting there in second place with 29 points. They have a very interesting last 2 games. This week, they have a critical game against 6th place Monterrey, and then they have a matchup against the team right behind them, Pumas. So they have to play both Rayados and Pumas to finish the season. Okay, here's the big deal. Straight shooting. Richard, you first on this. Is Cruz Azul going to F it up, or are they going to be able to hold on and stay securely in the top 4?
They're gonna stay on the top 4. I think
Okay.
they're done like experimenting out there.
Okay. Well, and specifically, do you think that they'll win both these games? Do you think they're going to slip up, or what do you think about their matchups against 6th place Rayados and 3rd place Pumas?
I mean, I think they can beat Rayados, and if they do, I think they're gonna play a more they're gonna play a more safe role against Pumas, because if you already beat Monterrey, you still have that 1 point. Thinking out here that Pumas is going to win their game, then you can just go ahead and tie that match. Like that's all you really need. But that's where you can get overconfident too. So
Well, and hold that thought when we get to Pumas, because they have their own interesting game. Raul, your thoughts on Cruz Azul? I mean, they have 2, respectable and opponents here. What do you think their odds are to stay as a lock for a top 4 seed?
They'll stay top 4, but it won't be second place.
Okay.
I'm really hoping that Monterrey beats Cruz Azul, because if they do, they don't get the points that they need. Obviously, Monterrey moves up, but then we need to beat America on Sunday, because if we do, then we move up to second, and that knocks down 3rd and 4th.
Let the record state that we have it on a live stream here that Raul openly advocated for Rayados' victory. I just want to make sure that that's clearly on tape here. Okay. Pumas in 3rd place. Yes, I just mentioned they're going to pick Cruz Azul to end the season. Before that, their own interesting matchup is against 9th place Chivas, who are fighting to stay in the top 12. Thoughts on I see Cruz Azul and Pumas as kind of like very similar teams, neck and neck. They're a point separated. Do you think Pumas has a greater or lesser chance than Cruz Azul to fall out of the 4?
Greater
Chance, Richard.
I think I think
I guess
more.
the question
I think
is,
a less chance, because
okay.
so one thing that I guess what I want to note is that looking at Chivas and Pumas, I think Pumas has a better chance of winning that game than Cruz Azul does to Monterrey.
I got you.
Right. So with that, again, it goes to the logic to see what happens this weekend. We're gonna see how they're gonna come out next weekend on how they're gonna play their match.
It's gonna be interesting to see if both those teams win and they stay only a point apart. Then they play each other to decide it all on that final match. It'll be interesting to see if one wins, one loses, and there creates a separation. But if they both lose or they both win, then it's going to be interesting. Okay. Our first interesting one between y'all. Number 4, currently our team that's sitting in the last secure home field advantage spot is Richard's Club America, also with 28 points. Their game all comes down to this week. It's probably the game of the week. It's Club America versus 5th place Tigres, who are right behind them. Tigres and Club America play each other, and then they get what I'm going to say are some very easy opponents to finish the season. Club America gets to finish out with Juarez, while Tigres gets Atlas. I think you guys will agree, but I want to hear y'all's thoughts. I know where you stand, but this is a critical game for both these teams. Tigres trying to break into the top 4, Club America trying to hang on to that home field. Whoever wants to go first, I'm sure both of y'all have a strong opinion on this one.
Take it, Ro.
I don't know. I have these last 15 points out of the 5 games that we played. We got 15 points. This last game we tied 1-1. That gave us 16 points. I think this is a Tigres that is not really being able to be stopped. They're on a roll. Guignac hasn't really been shining the way he hasn't, like the way everybody sees him. But now you have Nico Lopez. Nico Lopez has scored every single game that he's played in since the game before Clásico all the way until this past weekend. He has scored every single game. So I'm pretty confident that Tigres can pull off the win. And if they were to do that, that pushes us up to third place. But I really need Monterrey to beat Cruz Azul. Like, I mean, even if they lose, I mean, they fall, and that's that. But I really need them to win so it can push us up to second. And then Atlas is a cakewalk for us. I mean,
Yeah, you hit around the point. I mean, like it's true. Like I think in terms of tendencies, you do see Tigres in a better position. Like I guess in terms of momentum than America. Like for me, I've been very critical of them since like the beginning of the season, where it's like they can only score one goal. They're like basically playing like Spain, like waiting for that one goal, and once that goal goes in, it's usually like in the later end of the match. And I think like that's not who the America I want to see playing. But at the same time, you know, it's unpredictable. I think they're an unpredictable America at this point. Like they're not, and that's not good when you know you actually have to play a match that matters. And I think this weekend is a match that matters because you're essentially losing your top spot that they've they've kind of been up there since the beginning of the tournament for some reason.
Well, what's definitely interesting is that, I mean, I think on paper it's cakewalks for both y'all in the final week, but I think this thing's going to come down to the wire because, you know, even if, let's say Tigres beats America, right, and goes up to 30 points, depending on what happens with that Cruz Azul Pumas thing and with Monterrey and all that stuff, I mean, you guys still come down last season because, like I said, yeah, you jump up to 30, but Club America's still sitting there at 28 points. If you don't close out on Alas and have some like nightmare scenario and Club America takes care of business with Juarez, they jump right back in there. I think there's going to be some shuffling down to the wire. I agree with Raul that obviously it gives you a cushion if we're taking out some of these other teams, you move up. But the way the points worked out, you know, that second place to sixth place is very precarious because there's no separation until you get to Monterrey to Pachuca. That 4-point separation, you know, allows for a win or a loss and still not to change the standings. Here, any win or loss by these teams is going to change things dramatically. I do think momentum is in favor of Tigres. I mean, they've gotten results nonstop. But everyone's been at the top. You'll notice it's really divided. I mean, look at all the red down here for the lower half. The upper half of the league has been beaten up on the lower half, and that's what's been happening. Now, in these final 2 weeks, the upper half has to play each other, and the lower half has to play each other. So it's going to be some pretty cutthroat games in my mind. We mentioned before, Monterrey has a key game against Cruz Azul. They then have to finish out their season against Chivas. So not an easy road for Rayados. I think they obviously need to win 1 out of 2 to secure themselves securely in the playoffs. I do not see Monterrey breaking up into. There has to be a lot of things that happen their way. They got to win both games, and they got to have some crazy scenarios pan out here. But I don't think you're going to see Monterrey. I think they're going to stay pretty much where they are. 5th or 6th, maybe drop to 7th, somewhere in that neighborhood. But that's just where I think based off how they're playing, they're still shaky to me. They've been pretty consistent in their last 3 performances, getting wins and getting a quick 9 points, but they're not it's not convincing. I mean, they're eking out late second half goals to get 2-1, 1-0 type victories. But hey, I mean, a win's a win. Give me my 3 points, I'll move on. This is my thoughts on Rayados. Okay, let's just go real quick because I just want to, just for time's sake. But looking at the rest of this, my question for y'all. Let's shift gears to the second half here. Let's look at 7 through 12, the second half of the playoffs right now. You have some separation. We have Pachuca, Santos, Chivas, all sitting with 22 points. We then have Toluca with 20 right behind them, and then Necaxa with 18. And then there's a drop off to Juarez at 15. These are your playoff teams right now. So I guess before we get down to the bottom, let's not focus on the last two spots. But looking at this middle pack, Pachuca, Santos, Chivas, Toluca, do you see any opportunities for any of these teams to move around? Just to give you a rundown, Pachuca has to play Tijuana and Necaxa. Santos has to play León and Mazatlan. Chivas has the tough games against Pumas and Monterrey. And Toluca has to play Necaxa and León. Any thoughts on this kind of middle of the pack? Who can maybe improve their playoff stock and get to a higher seed?
I mean, definitely seeing how. Yeah, go ahead, Ro. Sorry.
The teams that have to play Leon, those are the teams that are probably going to disrupt who stays where. Because if Leon goes out, resting some guys, that means a lot of the guys that are in those, like from the 5th to 12th, that's gonna mess things up because they're coming out full force. They need to win in order to stay alive, to at least to stay in top 12. So whoever plays Leon is going to mess things up.
That would be Santos this week and then Toluca.
Right.
Santos, Chivas, and Toluca, those three teams are going to mess things up. They're the ones that are going to mess things up. From 5 to 12, those are the ones to watch because they're going to one might lose, one might win, or if all three win, like their games, that's going to mess some things up and people are going to fall and move.
Well, remember, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are going to get home games against 9, 10, 11, and 12 in that little playoff round that's starting off the playoffs. So you want to get to this 8th place or above to get you a home field for that one playoff game before you get to play one of the top 4. So the goal is still to make the 8. If you're in this 9 through 12, you still got an outside shot. Richard, your thoughts on kind of this middle of the pack mess that we got?
No, you're right. I think, like Raul said, like whoever plays Leon is, I mean, that can mess things up. I think seeing from this past weekend's matches, I do think Toluca has a better chance of moving up than Santos and Chivas. Just because like it looks like Toluca, I think, is starting to find their form. Whereas Chivas, I guess like for me, Chivas, they're the team who I guess like now I'm more hopeful for in terms of like national team providing like national team for Mexico players. But other than that, in terms of the league, they didn't show like at least like that much grit in their clásicos. They lost the one against America. They barely won the one against Atlas. They lost their last game too. So just like confirming that, yeah, they lost it against Cruz Azul. So
right.
I think if we're going against momentum, I think Toluca has a better chance of moving up than Santos and Chivas. But you know, anything can happen. That's the beautiful thing about the Liga MX. Then you don't have in the MLS is the unpredictability.
Yeah. It is nice to see. I will say this: we talk about it every year. It's nice to see, just as a fan of the league, Pachuca being in the mix finally again. They haven't been in the top 8 in a few seasons. So it's nice to see a historical team like that up there. Last thing in Liga MX, and then I'll let y'all if you have closing thoughts or any other things you wanted to highlight. Our friends in Juarez who are hanging on for dear life to get a playoff shot to get destroyed, hopefully. But last question to y'all before I turn it over for your final thoughts on Liga MX, and we'll get into our last quick tournament. I know we're going long. Any challengers? Can Juarez hang on to this spot? Or same question, who is going to get these last couple spots? Necaxa and Juarez hold on, or do you think? And remember, a lot of these teams all play each other. What sucks for Juarez is that they got to end the year against Club America. Now that depends. Is it going to be a Club America that cares about that game, or is it going to be a Club America that's like, okay, whatever, Juarez, here you go. They also have to play Querétaro this week, who's in 17th place. So, Richard, start with you. Can Juarez hold on, or do you think one of these other challengers will sweep in for the final spot?
I mean, just seeing that they were able to tie Tigres, I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk with America. That's why I don't think America is going to have it like that better than Tigres because of how they played against how Juarez played against Tigres.
Yeah.
So I think America's in for a shocking surprise if they don't win against Tigres this weekend. Juarez is going to give that surprise and is going to take advantage of that. And I think that they are going to move up if they capitalize on that game against America. If not, I would like to see Puebla or Atlas get in there. I think our team of the year, Mazatlan, they barely made a dent. But knock on wood, that they don't get into La Liguilla. But
yeah, Ro.
The only team that I can actually see probably sneaking in is Tijuana. Tijuana is one of those teams that could always sneak in.
Mm-hmm.
Atlas also, but I don't know. Shit.
70 years.
The last 10 years, I don't know. They've been garbage. I don't know what's wrong with them. It's just garbage over there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Surprised Querétaro's down there, though. Querétaro's normally one of those teams that's in the mix, but I guess it's a bad year, or maybe after the last decade, starting the new decade, they're going to be down there. But I could honestly see Tijuana being the one team that can move up.
And Querétaro can be the spoiler if they want. They played both Juarez and Tijuana in these last two games. So Querétaro has their own destiny in their control. They knock out, if they can beat both Tijuana and Juarez, they could really screw some things up for people. So it's going to be fun. Before we move into our quick rundown of tournaments, I'm just wondering if either of you have any final thoughts or takeaways or thinking when it comes to Liga MX in these final 2 weeks. We'll definitely be, our November show will be focused on the actual playoffs, but I'm just wondering what you guys think of this crazy mess or anything you think people should be watching or looking out for. I think we highlighted America, Tigres, definitely a game to watch this week. Cruz Azul, Monterrey, second key game to watch this week.
Yeah, I guess that would be my question for y'all is do y'all think this is the year for Cruz Azul? Is it finally it? 22 years?
I don't think so.
No. Fuck no. I don't know.
No, I it's weird for me because, like I said, Cruz Azul and Pumas are two teams that I'll truly believe it when I see it. You know what I'm saying? I cannot give them 100% faith until they actually do it. Either one of them, because it's a lot of talk, and yes, they've been impressive, but I just don't. Yeah, I don't see it from either one of those teams. Leon is super strong. I will say this: Leon has impressed me. They've been steamrolling. They haven't lost a game in a month and a half. So Leon is. I mean, yes, the first place curse and all that, but they're going to be a handful in the playoffs. I think Leon is definitely coming in as a very strong number one seed.
I don't know. The closest thing Cruz Azul is going to get to a championship is that crap cup that they won during the summer. They're not getting anything else. I don't. And if they do, it's because they felt sympathy for them because they took it away from them because of the whole COVID. So it's like, hey, let's give them something. They already gave them the participant trophy. They already gave them that. So I don't know. I don't believe in them. Cruz Azul is a joke.
So the last time that Leon lost a game or didn't get a tie, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm trying to find. I'm going Cruz Azul all the way back in match day 3. So I mean, yeah, that was August 8th. So they've been rolling, and I do find it ironic that Cruz Azul was the one team that was able to handle them. So
that was their only loss this tournament.
Yeah, but ties and wins for the rest of it. So, any other thoughts before we go into our final tournaments here? We all good? Okay, yeah. Real quick because I know we're going long, but it's been crazy amount of soccer. Real quick, just an announcement. Just because I get to plug my team now. Rayados finally got to resume some Copa MX actions, and that still means something if you get a Champions League berth and all this stuff. But they came out the first leg. They won 1-0 over Tijuana. So they have 1-0 aggregate. The second leg is going to be played next week on Thursday. the 4th, which are maybe I'm going wrong on my dates, but yeah, November 4th next week, they will be playing Tijuana. Rayados only with a 1-goal win. They both got red carded in that game, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts lineups. But I am confident that after all the mess and crap that Rayados went through after COVID, I am praying, please, baby Jesus, let them at least. I know it doesn't mean anything to a lot of people, but I think it could be huge for them. And it's interesting that the timing, right? They have to play this game next week, so they're going to play. They're going to play Cruz Azul this weekend. Next week, they have to play Copa MX final, Leg 2 against Tijuana, and then turn around that weekend and play Chivas. So my concern is I want them to win, but I don't want them not at the expense of screwing up. I just hope they don't get worn down, because if Monterrey, even more so for them to win against Cruz Azul, if Rayados can't do it this weekend and it's all on the line against Chivas next week, that scares the crap out of me, because in between the week they're not resting or practicing. They got to play that Copa MX final. So for Rayados fans like me, either we're going to be very happy in 2 weeks because we're secure in the playoffs and we got a Copa MX title, or we're going to be miserable because we're going to, not have a title and be squeaking in and limping into the playoffs. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but I'm hoping we can take care of this Tijuana team next week. And like I said, Copa MX was basically forgotten about because of COVID.
No, you're right.
Raul, any thoughts on that? I know you to illustrate your point from earlier, I know you want Rayados to win against Cruz Azul, and that's all that matters right now. But do you think they can take care of? They think they can take care of Tijuana in the middle of the week next week?
I think they'll be able to take on Cruz Azul. That it depends, because depending on the situation and Mohamed, you either go all in and try and win a trophy, or you basically go in, try and win. I mean, some of those guys, they're able to handle it, but it just depends if they obviously they want to go in for the CONCACAF, they want a spot in there, but
yeah, it depends.
I don't think they can get that much of a momentum going right now, and that's the thing that sucks, because they can get this win, but they can get this win against Cruz Azul, then they can win Copa MX. But that last game against Chivas, if they don't win and they're stuck in that 6th, 7th place, you got to turn around and go back and play again, because single elimination game. So
yeah. Well, speaking of, as we mentioned, CONCACAF champions, they're still trying to figure it out. I didn't have anything to share with y'all tonight, but I do know that they're planning on playing. Basically, the problem is COVID interrupted when everything was going on. It already started, right? So they're trying to figure out, basically, to be fair, they're talking about playing all at neutral sites, probably in the southern U.S. Houston could be a city, but San Antonio, L.A., stuff like that. And to bring all the teams together and to basically play, rapid fire, where you'd have a final in right before Christmas, because the World Cup of Clubs has been moved back. Because, for example, Libertadores, which we're about to go through, is not going to be done until January, late January. The World Cup of Clubs, they said they're going to move to, I think probably February at this point. So it's going to be kind of weird because they're playing the World Cup of Clubs 2 months later. But CONCACAF still hasn't completely determined. They've just set a time frame of when that's going to happen and trying to figure out, okay, how do we make up for some of these legs that have been played and for other ones they haven't played at all. You remember we were right in the middle of it when it got shut down. I remember us watching those games out in LA, right? I think it was Cruz Azul and LAFC and everything. And it's all right, shut down. We'll see what happens. So I don't know what's there. One tournament that is going on. Oh, did you have something wrong?
They didn't get to start theirs. The last game that was played was the New York one that I was at. That was the last game before everything got shut down.
So they're trying to figure out how to best accommodate that and to be fair, and switching to single elimination type stuff, not doing legs. So it's going to be kind of complicated, but they're trying to work it out to play right after Thanksgiving in December.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly,
go ahead.
Possible, just speaking to this definition or depth that the teams have. this is where we're gonna see the resistance that you're talking about. Your Monterrey is, do they have enough players to kind of like support the multiple tournaments? Because I honestly like watching them play against Liverpool. I wouldn't mind, seeing them again, just because I think if there is one team that can compete with the European teams, is one of the norteños. So it's either Tigres or Monterrey.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And just last, as we're getting towards the end here, I just wanted we'll talk more about this on our November show, and we'll save our official predictions until then, because Copa Libertadores, we finally have a round of 16. They get through their very long group stage. They are set for the 24th and 25th of November to play leg 1 and then leg 2 of the round of 16 right after that, December 1st and 2nd. I wanted to go through, just so you guys, people have forgotten about Libertadores, there are some fantastic matchups. I want to go through all the matchups and then see if anything stands out to y'all. We'll save the predictions until November. We'll go matchup by matchup and get y'all's takes for the November show. But I did want to give the audience just a quick preview of what's going on. So we have, first of all, kicking off on the 24th, we have Atletico PR against River Plate. Followed by, we have LDU Quito, who's been there before, against Santos. By the way, there are a lot of Brazilian teams that made it to this stage. An interesting matchup that I would like to see, we have Racing Club against Flamengo in the third matchup. And then we have Delfín against Palmeiras. So those are your first 4 matchups as we get kicked off. The second half, we have Independiente de Valle against Nacional. Here's a fun one. Internacional against Boca Juniors. Libertad against Jorge Wilstermann. Guarani against Gremio. So some usual names there, some usual suspects, if you will, for the Copa Libertadores. Only question on this, and then we'll be pretty much done. We'll move on. Any teams that I just rattled off there, 2 things. Can each of you tell me one team that you like a lot, who you think is a strong contender to represent South America? And number 2, is there anybody who can maybe be a dark horse, a surprise? And like I said, I have those teams going across the bottom of the screen. I guess as y'all think about that, I'll go first. My favorite, because we see them all the time, and I want to see them do it this time. I got to go with the Boca boys. See if Boca Juniors can break through and get a Copa title and represent South America. In terms of me, for someone who I'm interested in seeing how they do, because I haven't seen them up here in a while, I'm really interested to see Racing Club, another Argentinian team, because they have that first very difficult matchup against Flamengo. I want to see how that team does. If they handle Flamengo, Racing Club could be fun to see in the quarter and semis. So those are my favorite and one I like to watch. Raul, what are your anyone you'd like to pick out and one you'd like to watch?
The match to watch is Racing Club versus Flamengo. That's probably one of the most exciting. That's probably the only exciting match to watch. I really want to see Boca advance. I really want, I don't know, I've always watched Boca for a while. I mean, back to when Riquelme and all of them were playing with Boca and stuff. I mean, that was Boca in its prime. And I keep up with, I don't know, Argentinian culture is just my favorite. One team that I do not want to see advance, and I hope they get knocked out right away, is River Plate. I hate River Plate so much. I will never like River Plate ever. Yeah. Ever since that final against them, I will never like them. I hate them with all my heart till the day I die.
Spoken like a true Argentinian.
Yeah, I think I know.
You love one or the other, but not both.
Right. Richard, what are your thoughts? Who's a favorite for you, and who do you think is someone who we should keep our eyes on?
I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and counter what Raul said, because I think River Plate, honestly, is at least in terms of the Argentinians, is the only team who continues to stay consistent in terms of goal scoring, in terms of dominating matches. But I think the match 2C is going to be Internacional and Boca Juniors, just because Internacional in their own right, weren't they the ones who won last year?
No, Flamengo was who won. Internacional was close. Internacional is really good. That's
Yeah.
one of those teams that you have to watch close.
So I think because right off the bat, Boca Juniors is playing them. If Boca Juniors wants to, try some gold anytime soon, they have to win against Internacional. But at the same time, Internacional is not going to give them an easy match either. So we'll see. I mean,
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
And then just last but not least, real quick, and we're going to save this more for November because it's still early on, but I want to remind people that UEFA Champions has also started their new season. Obviously, we know Bayern won. Is going to be representing UEFA in a World Cup of Clubs, but they've already started the 21 season. And I just wanted to highlight from all the groups real fast from just go and like no surprise, just so y'all have a feel for it. And we'll let way more about it. Looking at the matches, just so people know, they just completed match day 2 of 6. Match day 3 is actually going to be already next week on the 3rd and 4th. And then there's a little bit of a break, and match day 4 will be at the end of November, and match day 5 in December. So match day 6 is actually right after that. So they're very fast. So basically, the group stage will be over by December 9th. So a lot of Champions League soccer in the next 6 weeks. The entire group stage will be wrapped up very quickly. But just to kick things off, just real quick, Bayern has come out, won both games to Group A. They're out to a 6-point lead. Atletico Madrid has 3. In Group B, Shakhtar Donetsk they've been around in Champions League before. They've started off with 4 points to lead their group. Interesting that Real Madrid has come out with only 1 point, a draw so far over 2 games. Group C, Man City is perfect with 2 wins. So Man City's on top there with Porto behind them with 3. Group D, Liverpool is perfect with 2 wins with Atalanta in their group. That's an interesting group with Liverpool, Atalanta, and Ajax all in the same group. So that could be a fun group to watch. Group E, Chelsea has 4 points with Sevilla also there with 4 points. So interesting to see there. Lazio is leading Group F with 4 points, along with Club Brugge with 4 points. And Dortmund is the one that's hanging around in third, not starting off too strong. Barcelona may be weak in La Liga, but Barcelona is 2-0 in Group G with 6 points. Juventus is second place. So once again, Barcelona and Juventus getting thrown into the same group. I'm sorry. Those 2 other teams, Dynamo, Kiev, and Ferencvaros, whatever, they're about to get slaughtered. So we know who's going to win that group. And Group H, some powerhouses here. Man U has started off perfect with 6 points. PSG in second with 3, and RB Leipzig is in Group H. Group H is going to be a battle for who's going to finish there. Now we all know that for the next stage, only the bottom seed is getting knocked out. Third seed will go to Europa. Top 2 go on to the next round of champions after the group stage. So it's going to be interesting. You're going to have a good team like an RB Leipzig potentially, or a PS, somewhere in that group that's going to go to the Europa, or like Dortmund, and not go on. Some very uneven matches. The other impression, guys, I'll let you know. I don't know if you have any thoughts, but Premier League showing out for sure. In every group, you got both Man City, Man U, Liverpool, Chelsea, all very strong early contenders. But like I said, we could talk all day about that, but we'll save that for our November and December shows. Okay.
Interesting.
Yes. Any thoughts on that before we close up?
I mean, all I can say is just tune in for our November show if you want to hear more of our thoughts, or shoot us a message on what you'd like to hear.
We're definitely trying to have a November show before Thanksgiving, on all the holidays, Thanksgiving break, and before Raul's birthday. So we'll try and have a show before then, because we definitely want to talk about the Mexican playoffs. So Liga MX playoffs will definitely be something we want to talk about, and so we may see you in a few short weeks, maybe a couple of weeks. We'll be right back on. My only last, I'll turn over to Raul in a second, but I did want to point out the picture the painting that's been behind me this whole time. I want to give a shout out to a HSPVA graduate, Jasmine Cardenas, who graduated class of 2020, who did this for us, Tech Soccer Live. This painting on this big canvas here, a little memorial, a little dedication to Tech Soccer Live. So thank you, Jasmine, for an awesome job on that. And there's a reminder, HSPVA students also does our intro and outro music. So I'm blessed to serve at an awesome school with some awesome kids who apparently are fans of us as well. So thank you to them. Raul, final thoughts, and Richard, final thoughts, and then we can close it up.
Oh.
You're muted, Raul. You're muted, Raul.
Just stay tuned to the show, and if you want to see some good playoff soccer, at least watch Liga MX. That's where it's about to start getting crazy, and it's about to get very interesting. So if you want playoff soccer, watch that, because Texans are horrible and baseball is done. So I say you start watching that. Dynamo started off good and started at the top, and now they're at the bottom. So yeah, I mean, just look out for any announcements on the page and whatnot. We're coming to the end of the year, so depending on
it's playoff time.
Depending on how things go by the end of the year. I mean, we're also coming up on a new year at the beginning of next year, so stay tuned for any announcements that we have, any things that we have going on, and share the page with some friends, like the page, and tell everybody about it. Get some more likes and follows on the page. It helps us out a lot. Try and get a sponsor. Try and hit up some breweries, see if they want to sponsor us, see how that goes.
Definitely. And guys, I know we went extra long today, but it's what Raul said it. There's a ton of soccer going on. We'll have even more in November. There's just a lot to talk about. If there's a particular thing you want to hear more about, we try and cover a little bit of everything. But if you want to hear more about something else, let us know. Reach out to us, message on the page, because we want to, if there's not as much interest in a particular thing, let's spend more time on something else. So let us know. We want to hear your feedback. Richard, anything else?
Yeah, no, just giving a shout out to everybody in the comments that were there today. Just as a reminder for anybody who is interested or would like to hop on one of these calls, Joseph was here last time, so it's good to see you, Raul. From Joseph, Joe's mom, hello, and then we got Daniel. How you doing, Daniel? All the way in Boston, and then we got Juan, which we shouted out earlier, and then your grandma, Raul, says hi. No, just thank you all so much for the support. To all my friends in Boston, like I know, sports are ending, but if soccer is something that you'd be interested in seeing more, definitely let me know. If y'all want to continue to hear more about NWSL or Liga MX Femenil, we have those topics out in our YouTube channel. And yeah, so I mean, I want to continue making content, but like Raul said, if there is an interest of that content to be made, then that content will be made. But at the moment, it seems we're still waiting, and then there's other projects that we want to get started. So
definitely. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. If you're watching this on playback, remember I set it up at the front. You can always jump to a particular section that you're more interested in. We will announce very soon when our November show will be, so we'll see you live in November. But in the meantime, like, follow, share, you know the drill, and let us know what you want to hear more about. As always, for Texas Soccer Live, I'm Sean Telez with Richard Romero and Raul Villarreal. We are out for October. Happy Halloween, and clock's going back this weekend, so enjoy your hour's sleep.
Mm-hmm. Best.
And out.